Just want to congratulate our guys. Pro day, obviously exciting for them. We had 4 guys at the combine, which we're proud of, but there's a lot of other guys I think are going to be really good pros, and so really good day for them. I want to obviously take this opportunity to congratulate Coach Manning, the staff. One of the great things about being here is, you have great coaches that come out and support you. Coach Manning's at 6 a.m. match drills. He comes to practice. His staff's a great staff. Watching Ridge and Antrell and all the guys, Brock, just all the things they've done through the Big Tens and into this weekend was inspiring and really cool. My son called me yesterday and he's like, "Hey, I just saw Ridge love it." I was like, "Oh, where's he at?" He's like, "He's down in the academic area, So you forget when you watch them excel at that level. They're also students and they're great men, and proud to be associated with them. That was really inspiring. With that, let's see what questions you guys have.
What were you looking for in these first 2 days? I mean, as the head coach, what are you looking for?
Yeah, so the first 2 days, the rules are of our 15 practices, 3 have to be in helmets. The first 2 have to be in helmets. We think it's really important to give them Easter Saturday off, and so that's the only time. That's why we go on a Monday. Coming off spring break, it's not ideal to take a week off and then start practice. So I was looking for guys to have come back in shape, so that we didn't have any pulls or anything like that. And I really think of these first 2 days really as classroom instruction on the grass. A ton of teaching, a ton of installation. The guys, as I told them, there is no depth chart right now. There is no, this is your role. It's not the coach's job right now to figure out who's going to play and who's not going to play. It's our job to figure out who can play. It's a big difference. I'll say that one more time. Job's not to figure out who is going to play. It's really who can play. And you're trying to teach guys and see what they can do. And so asking our players to just focus on their effort and their execution. We're trying to set a standard for those things the first 2 days in football. So I think it's been really good. We went 1 day inside, 1 day outside. Obviously, we're practice fields are torn up right now, so there's some limitations, but we're blessed with elite facilities, and we're able to get out there and get some work in.
How does the large number of players who are new to the program, both freshmen and transfers, impact the way that you get into this spring and what you look to accomplish?
I haven't really felt a ton of like, oh wow, there's a lot of guys that don't really get what we're doing. I think the veteran leadership is so pronounced. They kind of know what to do, and so the guys have just kind of come in and dug right into the rhythm of it. I think we have a lot of new staff, and so that I sometimes maybe feel that maybe a little bit more, but we just want to get everyone out there, like I said, and just really teach them the scheme, but really also the standards that we want to have in terms of how hard we expect the guys to play and the execution that we're expecting from them. And I think everyone's taken advantage of that, and I think we've done a good job of, as the rules allowed, including football in the off season more than we ever have, so that we can get to here and it not be we're starting football. We've immersed within the training periods and the mat drill periods and all that. We've immersed a lot of football. So I think the guys are more prepared than ever. So I haven't really felt, honestly, Mitch, what you'd think with the numbers, I haven't really felt like, wow, there's just a ton of new guys out here. It feels kind of seamless, which is a good thing.
I know it's really early, but have you seen, because of the football stuff you've done prior to spring, the QBs and wide receivers be able to gel well at this point? Or can you even tell that?
Yeah, I think we're just in in a teaching phase. There's so much work that has to be done, and Dana is very demanding with what he wants in the passing game, and so I don't foresee him feeling very excited anytime soon. He's like I said, he's done something. He's done this for a long time, and he knows exactly what he wants, and so. We sat there and watched as a staff yesterday the one-on-ones, and I learned so much just listening to him talk, and so it was great. They've put a lot of work in, but right now it's just kind of, like I said, it's a different phase, more coordinated stuff. And Thursday we'll put the pads on, we'll change a little bit more.
Hey, Coach, are there any guys that will make position switches this spring or experimenting new positions for you guys?
Oh, man, that's a great question. I can't think of anyone specifically. Rowdy Bauer, we moved him to safety. I think Rowdy's got a chance to play here. So I wanted to, he did a really nice job as scout team running back, really good athlete. But moved him over to defense, because you obviously play more safeties than you play running backs probably. I'd feel really bad if there's someone obvious that I'm missing, so I don't mean to be disrespectful. I just can't think of anyone's, Yeah, Jaden's playing receiver, yeah. Jaden's playing receiver.
Hoefkin's still a D-line.
Mm-hmm.
You talking about spring being a time for experimenting with position changes or scheme changes. Is there more of that because of the staff turnover and so many new coaches, or is there less of that as they get to know the guys a little bit?
Well, as it pertains to scheme, our offense pretty much looks like what it looked like in the bowl game. I think Dana kind of sat down and while we were out recruiting, really kind of looked at like what are the best things that we do and what are the things that we really believe in, and we've like focused in on those things. Defensively, I think we're looking at, hey, who are the best players and how do we get them on the field. We also are trying to do a nice job of just teaching a couple base fundamental defenses that we can go to no matter what. So we're probably simplified a little bit defensively right now. And then obviously X bringing in a new special team system. So every day there's something new there, in terms of the way that we're teaching it. In terms of position changes, like as we go, we're always gonna if we think a guy has a chance to be if a guy has a chance to be a better player at another position, then we'll talk to them about it. It's getting harder and harder and harder sometimes to get guys to do that. It's funny. I was talking to Heinrich's father out there at practice, and the decision he's made, to stay here and change positions. I was even saying this earlier. Not as many people want to do that anymore, and it's not that, hey, you can't play position X. It's just we think you'd be better at position Y, and so that's it's kind of the thought process when we do it, and for guys who give it a shot, But I don't see a ton of that right now. I think we've got a lot of guys in the right positions.
Seeing at Pro Day real quick, Dylan out there, looks like he's maybe already met some of the objectives that you laid out.
Yeah, I felt really bad. I mean, I thought it was really poor on some people's parts. Like, if you went back and listened to what I said he knows he can't be 240. I didn't say he was 240. so people ran with that, and it's unfortunate, right? I mean, I'm very marked with how I say things. I say things a specific way, and all I said was he knows he can't be something. But he already was. I mean, he's done a really nice job with his body, and he's continuing to do that. He's a big man. He's gonna be a big man. You know why? When I was growing up early in football, you wanted a big quarterback because they stay healthy, they're durable, they don't get pulled down in the pocket, they don't get knocked down. He's got big hands. He'll be able to throw in all types of weather. He'll be able to throw. So I think his size is. He's never going to be X, but he's been really focused this offseason on, hey, I'm going to get myself to the right weight, get myself down to where I want to be. And I think, as you said, I think you can already see it. But I always feel bad when there's enough ire out there. When I bring that to somebody with something I said, but I think I was pretty specific in that he just knows what he doesn't want to be. Doesn't mean he's that. And he's I don't know, is he 19? 19? He's 19 years old. He's a very, very focused young man. So he's working at it. I think he'll be really good. And the fact that we had to move the pro day schedule around so he could throw for our guys, because it's important that they have someone throwing to them that they know, and then he has to get to class. So kind of move some things around. Appreciate the scouts, but yeah, he's had a good off season, and he's looked really good in practice so far.
With Ty having such a dominant combine, and he's here today, he's not testing, doesn't look like, but what does that say about him that he's here supporting the rest of his teammates after he did what he needed to do?
Well, and I think he's going to do drills. I think there's some coaches here to do drills, but Ty was back the next day. I mean, like he's back 2 days later. Where a lot of guys would probably go back to Arizona or someplace and train. He's here. He's in the training table. I think it speaks a lot to our facilities. I think it speaks a lot to the people that we have here. That him and Fedoni went to the combine and they came right back here, and they're eating upstairs in the training table. They're lifting in here. But Ty's a great teammate. He's going to be out there to support the fellas. I mean, and we have, like I said, we have some. I mean, he would be here for Nash alone, let alone everybody else. So like I said, we have some guys that didn't go to the combine that I thought should go to the combine, and I think will be good players.
Deion Sanders put out there the possibility of playing or practicing with another team in the spring. How would you feel about that? Are you in favor of something like that?
I think if they ever passed something like that, then I would do it. But I think it's like I think the possibility of that is so remote. That it's if they did it, I would look at it. But otherwise, it'd be just me surmising about something I don't think probably will happen. But if they did, I certainly would look at it. But
Do you have any idea why that couldn't happen?
I just think it's just outside the current playing rules. I just think it would take maybe it'll happen. Shoot, who knows? I have no idea. I just, it's just so far out there. Like, I remember being in a meeting at one point, and we were talking about the Big Ten. Like, instead of playing 1 versus 2, I think Coach Harbaugh, someone brought up, well, 1's already won. Why don't we play 2 versus 3? And there was so many rules around who can play when and all that it just seemed like it was a non-starter. So I don't know. I mean, if anybody can do it, Coach Sanders can, and I know Fran jumped in there, and Fran's someone that I've known a long time. If anybody can get it done, they will, but if that happened, though, I would certainly look into all that has to offer.
You did joint practices with another team when you were in Carolina, didn't you?
Yeah, not the first year was COVID, but we did it the second year. We did it with the Ravens and the Colts, and then my third year we did it with the Patriots. So I think there's a lot of value at that level to a joint practice, because guys have a chance to see a different scheme and see some different players, and you can really evaluate some guys. So
A lot of second and third year defensive backs that I know you think have a lot of potential. How excited are you to see how they can maybe push the competition and just feed off each other this spring?
Yeah, we got a lot of guys who are big, fast, explosive that we've recruited. Now we've had to develop, and I think Addison's a great secondary coach. I think he'll do a great job with those guys. I think Snow got here right away, and he's like, "Man, you guys got a lot of fast, long, athletic guys in the secondary." And I said, "Yeah, who can run?" I said, "Yeah, So some of those guys, they just have to make the most of their opportunities, and they're going to get them. So I think it's a really exciting time. We have some guys who played a lot of football back there, but we also have a lot of other guys that I know can play, and so this is their opportunity. This is their time.
Do things change this spring with the rev share, the roster limits, as far as the volume of recruits you might bring in and out over the spring? Does it change at all for you and kind of your approach of courting and offering guys with number restrictions and some of the things you're going to be facing?
Yeah, I think it's going to be, I think the hardest thing right now is I still don't know what the rules are, the parameters around the rev share. So, if you're a coach who doesn't care about saying something and then having to go back on it, it's really a great time. You can promise someone $700,000 and then, pay them $50 and say, if you were like, man, I really don't want to say something I can't follow up on. It's a hard time to make a lot of promises when you don't know, is third-party NIL really going to be gone? Is it going to be around? Is rev share going to happen? So I just think it's a time of great uncertainty, but also looks like there might be some certainty. I think I've never felt more like third-party NIL might be limited than I do now. I've always kind of like, I don't know about that. I think there's a chance of it happening, so I'm preparing for that. Whereas before it was like offer, take, recruit. Now it's what's the value? Like how much you want to pay for this and this player and this position, and so but there's so many unknowns. So I think it limits maybe like, hey, how many players are you going to take? The 105, how that all plays out is going to be interesting too. So we are, I think, probably just being very measured right now, trying to figure out, how exactly this goes. And with the knowledge of, most kids, commit after the, June visits. Even if they've committed now, some kids commit and then they're still going to take 5 visits. I mean, it's just a different world. So we're prepared to, have great June visits, and then we're prepared to recruit all the way up until signing day and be as aggressive as anybody in the country. It's just right now we're just making sure they're the right people because there's a different value associated now. Now it's no longer just a scholarship. It's, hey, what are we willing to do beyond that? And that's, there's a lot of schools that have benefited from unlimited bank accounts. If this is limited, then it changes everything. You know what I mean? So, as I said to everybody the other day, if every team gets, let's just say in 2026, if every team gets 16 million and every kid wins 500,000, you can have how many players? And the staff, a couple guys said pretty quickly, 32. You have 32 players make money. So for every recruit that wants 500 grand, there's only 32 spots of that. So, how are you going to break this up? And that's where Pat's going to be so valuable, because this is his world. His world is, there's lots of guys who can evaluate. There's lots of guys who can recruit. His world is valuation. And hey, where do we put people? And so I think we're going to be really limited in terms of how we do it. I think camps are going to have different, more value than ever, because camps, not only find out who you want, you're also finding out when you watch them live, like what's their value, early on. You're going to win. The teams that win will probably win with older players, kind of like you're seeing in basketball. But to get them in the door, you're going to have to be willing to know what you're going to recruit them for. So Ty Robinson's a much different player now than he was when we got here. So it's a fun time though to figure all this stuff out. I mean, it's a lot of the people that figure this out the best and are the smartest are going to win in the new model. You can no longer, some people might, but you can no longer just stockpile players through money, and so we'll try to do it better than anybody else.
You look at the defensive line room, right? You have a lot of younger guys who've played, right, but they haven't started, and the production hasn't necessarily needed for them because of Nash and because of Ty. What is that challenge for guys like that who've played at the Power 5 level, but now there's the added pressure of, all right, now I got to go out, I got to be the guy, I have to be the producer?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think every player that wants to be successful just really should control the things that they can control, and that's their effort, that's their craft, their execution. They play with great, good things will happen. I tell the coaches, I really believe in letting players prove us right. Sometimes players feel like they got to prove you wrong, prove us right. I think we're going to have one of the best D lines around, and we're replacing a bunch of really good players. But we got a bunch of really good players, and it's sometimes more fun to look at it like, oh, we lost this guy, but we're bringing in this guy to replace him. But there's a reason why I recruited those guys 2 years ago. You know what I mean? So that they could have time in the weight room. I was sitting out there with Jay Foreman at practice, and he was talking about some of the guys' bodies on the O-line. He's like, look at Preston, look at Bricks, look at those guys were big recruits. We beat a lot of good people on, and they're just patiently waiting their turn. And that to me is our secret sauce here at Nebraska. Is like we have a training table, a commitment to nutrition, we have a commitment to sports science, recovery, and the weight room that allows players to get developed. And so I'm expecting Riley to go out there and be a great player. I'm expecting Keona, I'm expecting Elijah, I'm expecting Cam, I'm expecting all those guys. They've been in the program for a couple of years. Elijah Judy got here, he was 270 some. He's now 300 pounds, right? It's his time, and they'll be great. So. Mitch, you had something else, I'm sorry.
Speak quick to the depth and just your comfort level at running back behind Emmett, just figuring out this spring what you have there.
Yeah, I think we're going to be. I have no concerns at running back. I think Quentin's. You go back. I've talked about Quentin a lot. I think Quentin's really, really talented, and I think it's just been him getting an opportunity. We were going to play Mackay last year at the end of the year in a couple games, and then I think I forget what happened. Like it just ended up not working out. But Mackay is dynamically fast, explosive, unbelievably competitive. Has an edge to him, that I love. And we brought in. I think Kenneth has done a great job for us. He returned the kickoff to open up the bowl game. He's a local kid that ran 10-4. And then you look at the guys we brought in. Connor, Jamarian. We'll see how they do throughout the court. I think Jamarian got here like at 175. He's already 190 some. Like he's big and strong. So we feel really good about those guys. I don't think that's a position where we feel like, at least right now, that hey, we need to go out and do something here. We got guys that we know can play. And the only reason why Quentin hasn't had a lot of production, kind of very similar to the question that was just asked, was just hasn't had the opportunity. But he has the talent. He's 210 pounds and can run. So, but this spring's a really important time for them, right? It's a really, really important time. And the last thing I'll say about that, they all have the ability to catch the football. And the offense that we want to be moving forward, you're going to have to be able to run the football, catch the football, and pass protect. And we want to be a 50-50 balanced offense. And Quentin can really catch the football. Mackay can really catch the football. Kenneth can really catch the football. Now we'll see, the young guys, I think they can, but, they have to show me they can do it. Anything else?
Hey, you guys moved Hartzog to safety last spring, and then towards the end of the season, moving back to corner. Where's he at? That's great.
Great question. No, he's he's one of those. Malcolm can do it all. I think when we look at kind of the iteration of defense that we're playing right now, we think of that. I've always thought of that field safety as really truly a nickel, and I think Malcolm will be a nickel in the NFL. So, your nickel can always go outside and be like your third corner if you need it out there. But we feel really good about him in the slot, so he'll play that field safety. But really, I think of him as like a true nickel that can come down and play man on two, and you can when he's out there, you don't have to play. Oh, let's put a dime package in. You can play with him at any point. So, and then Deshaun, we've kind of been moving him around to some different spots, trying to figure out where we can best utilize his physicality and production.
That last Husker game thing, is that a practice or doesn't count as part of your 15?
It counts as part of the 15. And if we do anything with the former, if former players are interacting with our players, it has to count as one of the scrimmages, which is fine with me. So I think it's I think it has a chance to be a really fun day. We're gonna model it after the Pro Bowl. I think they're gonna put some things out this week in terms of what we're doing. But I'd love to see some Husker greats, out there performing. I honestly suggested that they should get Sipple and some of you guys out there and in front of the crowd. I'm dead serious. I want to shoot a punt and see if Sipple can catch it. And then I'm going to go online and talk about what he did right afterwards, what he did wrong. So it'd be awesome. No, but I said we should have a media team. I really believe that we should have a media. You guys should get out there, and I'd love to see a couple of you guys do some stuff. And but I want to have like some skills competitions. We're gonna do some 7-on-7 like they do in the Pro Bowl. But I think it was really fun to get some of the old, some of the greats or some of the former players that want to be involved. And then I know we're trying to incorporate. As you guys know, I'm very passionate about women's 7-on-7 flag football. It's an emerging sport. It's going to be an Olympic sport. It's going to be an NCAA sport. I think it should be a high school sport in every state. I got 2 daughters that want it to be, so we put a camp on last year, and I think we're gonna host a women's 7-on-7 from some athletes, intramural athletes here versus I think Midland. Hopefully it's okay that I said that. Hopefully that's going through. If it's not, I apologize, but I think we're going to do that early. Then we'll have our portion, and then obviously the soccer game's happening that day. Women's soccer is going to be playing over at Hibner, and then Coach Busboom Kelly is going to have her first match, right? Versus is it Kansas? Kansas, which is they made it this year, right? So which is a really good team. So. I think it has a chance to be a fun day. I know they're going to do some other things around it, I know everybody. I trust me. I walked in last night with a social for the scouts, and the waitress, bartender, young lady, she said, "Coach Rhule, I have an issue with you." I said, "All right, what is that?" She said, "No spring game." I need, I'm like, I know, I get it. So many things that we love are going to change moving forward, but I think this has a chance to be pretty cool, and I'd love to see, Jay Foreman out there. He's at practice every day. I want to see him do some drills, and I want to see our guys compete with some drills. And the last thing I think hit me when we watched the Pro Bowl, we see all of our players. You got, the fans always see them with their, their helmets on. Football's such an impersonal game that way, and to take the helmets off and see their faces and see all that stuff, hopefully it'll be pretty cool. So we're gonna try to make it really good, and I think a bunch of teams across the country are gonna do it. We'll try to do ours better than not better than anybody else, the best that we can. And then if anything changes, if they change the rules or whatever, we're willing to adapt at any moment. But right now, I think this has a chance to be a pretty cool day. All right, thank you.
Thank you.